dynamic silence is important all the time. People don't use it enough. But when you give audits before you deliver bad news, I would almost pause a little bit more to make sure that they're processing so that that preparation is there for them. And also when you lay the bad news out there, go quiet. Don't try to talk over it. Let them process, let them have the reaction that they're going to have. Because if you keep interrupting them, you're basically cutting off that emotional response that they really need to have when you're telling somebody something they don't want to hear. So silence is really important because of that. Anything you want to add to that, Joanne or Marcella?
Yeah, it made me think of the story when we are checking in the hotel. We usually use the accusation audit first. You're probably thinking, I am another needed hotel client. And then pause, use a dynamic silence, look at them to eyes. Their reaction usually, what happened? And then we could use another accusation audit, pause, use a dynamic silence in between. You will see the results. It works very well every time. Either you can get some free upgrade, or they could probably give you some discount, something like that.
And whenever you're going in and you're trying to get that upgraded room or get something for free, it's always something that they don't want to hear. So you are telling them something that you don't want to hear. So a little bit of silence to allow that to process and to get them to kind of focus in on what you want from them. It's probably really important.
Yeah.
And
Use a
just remember
dynamic silence that the words sink into their mind.
Yep, exactly. Because a lot of times if you tell them something bad and they do have some kind of an emotional reaction, the emotional reaction that they're having may be embarrassing, and that's where they're apologizing. And, my first thing is I usually say, yeah, you do not need to apologize. That no apology necessary. And so saying this is worth crying over, that's, I think perfectly okay, depending on the situation. But now I'm trying to think of a situation where it wouldn't be okay to say that. And I can't really think of one. If they're crying, you're validating the fact that it's okay for them to cry. It's probably a great thing to say.
So the first one was, how can you deliver bad news to a group of people? Should you change the way you deliver it compared to delivering news to an individual?
I don't think you change it so much, but say you're having to tell a group of people that have been working on a project that the project's not going to move forward, and they've been working on it for months, and all of a sudden now you have to tell you want to make sure you use audits. And as you're standing in that room, and I do it in person, as you're standing in that room, you want to make eye contact with everybody at one point or another to kind of demonstrate how you feel giving them the bad news too. Because if you very nonchalantly say, okay, the project's not going, it's off now, we're going to move on to something else, all the people that put in work are going to kind of be like, what? They're going to feel incensed about it. So you want to make sure you say, I'm really sorry that I have to tell you this. You're probably going to be really upset. You're going to think that all the work you've done with us for the past few months means nothing. And then hang your head. The client has decided not to move forward with this project. You don't want to come out and say, well, the client's thinking that they may want to not move. Don't sugarcoat it. Just the client doesn't want to move forward on this project, and then they're like, well, that stinks, and they're going to be upset, and then you just validate that they're upset. But yeah, you can. It's probably a little less personal because it's a group, but you want everyone to feel like you're with them. So if there's 5 people sitting there, you want to, as you're talking with the audience, you want to look around and make eye contact with all of them. You guys, anything you want to add to that? Or
No, I mean, that covers it pretty well. I mean, you can go further and label what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Listen with your eyes. We always say that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see someone who's having a hard time non-verbally, identify that and label them.
Yeah. And it might even be something that maybe someone was more invested than the 3 other people that were on the project. And so you notice that about them. You can always pull them aside afterwards and go through all the things we've already told you about making sure you're in the right place and it's private, and you can address them, separately about, seems like you took this really hard, and, let them expand on it and just listen. Mm-hmm. Was there another question, Gabby?
Yes, there was one more last question. If delivering bad news turns into an attack from the other party, how can you best use the skills to protect yourself while diffusing the situation?
You don't react. You don't attack back. You don't say, it's not my fault you're hearing this. You don't make it about you. You understand where it's coming from. The attack is coming because you're the person there that gave them the bad news. So you're the person that's getting the brunt of their reaction to it. All you can do is just nod your head and let them talk about it. And if they give you something that you can label, it might be good to label it, but don't attack back. And don't say, why are you killing me? I'm just the messenger. That's the wrong thing to say. Yes, you're the messenger. You're the messenger who elected to give them the bad news. So you're the one that's going to receive the brunt of their reaction to it. Just understand that going in.
Yeah. Really listen too, because you're going to get so much information. And then this is where we really need to listen at that higher level, because if you think of this as something that you're doing, a task, right? You're negotiating and they're screaming at you. What are they saying? What are they not saying? Label it, summarize how they feel. This is where we want to apply the skills even further, go deeper and keep going. Don't just give up. Don't give the bad news and say, oh, I did a great job. Now let me walk away. Because you mentioned earlier, Sandy, that the other half of this is following up with people.
Yes. Yeah. So, if you give somebody bad news, it's never a bad idea to follow up with them in an hour, in a day, in a week, all of the above, whatever the case may be. But when you just drop bad news on somebody and you walk away like, shoot, my job's done, you're leaving them hanging out there. So you want to make sure that you follow up and make sure that they're stable. If they need to have time to have some privacy, to go and have their own emotions, you want to check in with them when you see them come back and make sure that they're okay. And just, that's when the black swans come out. Absolutely. So, you never underestimate the information you can find out by giving someone news that they don't want to hear. Like in the example with the group and telling them that the project's not going to happen anymore. They might start venting about certain things, and you're going to learn a lot of good information that may inform you in the future when it comes down to, will you accept a project from different people? And, maybe some of the roadblocks that they were hitting, you can recognize before you get into that next time. So yeah, it's always a good idea to listen as much as possible, label as much as possible, and uncover those black swans, because they're always around. You just have to learn how to find them. And part of that is staying curious about, where someone is in the situation when you're giving them that bad news.